Good afternoon, good morning, and good evening, wherever you are. It's Wade T. Lightheart at the Digital Republic. Another No BS rant. I'm excited. I've got a lot going on right now. It's been a fantastic week. Oh, let me hit the broadcast points. Let me hit that again. Start that again. Hey, everybody. We're here live on the Digital Republic. No BS rants with Wade T. Lightheart. I actually started this earlier on Facebook, but realized that I wasn't in broadcast mode on the Zoom call. My apologies for that. I want to thank everybody for joining us this wonderful day. It's a beautiful day in the neighborhood here in Vancouver, Canada. Crazy week happened. We were across the country. I had meetings with old friends, meetings with new friends. We did a great event on identity last week at the corporate offices in Toronto, which was really, really fun and exciting. I shared some insights from my career, my business career in the last 15 years, which was cool. We're going to talk about tonight on overcoming adversity in your business and in your life. And oftentimes they're related because our business life, our career life, and our personal life all kind of get tied up. Everybody says you can separate them, but I think they are actually related to it. So we're going to talk about adversity, what it is, what does it look like, what does it feel like, and more importantly, how do you respond? Everybody has to deal with adversity. Everybody, in some form or another. So what is adversity per se? What actually is it? Well, adversity, I guess the easiest definition of that would be is the resistance to your, what would I say, desired outcome. So let's say you set a goal. Let's say you set a vision. Let's say you set some idea that you want to have happen in your life, and it doesn't go the way that you want it. It doesn't work out exactly how you imagine it would go. What do you do? So for example, let's say you set a goal to make $10,000 a month, and you set that goal to do that in the next 18 months. And 18 months comes along and you haven't made anything. And you found out you had to get a business license, you had to get a tax accountant, found out that your marketing wasn't so good, found out that your salesmanship's not so great. You found out a lot of things that were tough. And we call that adversity. Or maybe someone in your family got sick. Maybe you lost your job. Maybe regulations changed. Basically, adversity is, in a lot of ways, the things that we didn't know and didn't plan for on the way to achieve our goals and dreams. So the thing is, everything that you want to do in life, let's say you want to be a sports star, let's say you want to be a business success, let's say you want to have a successful relationship, are going to have these points that you never thought of, never imagined, didn't plan for, that are going to come up. And oftentimes these things define us more than the things that we do. So what does adversity look like? Well, adversity looks like, oftentimes it's a surprise. Two, it can be felt as a feeling. And we'll kind of like, what does it feel like? So what does it look like? It looks like some kind of delay in achieving what your goal is, or some type of obstacle. Could be financial, could be emotional, could be a skill set obstacle, could be a regulatory obstacle, could be an international obstacle. It's a variety of things that it could look like. But what does it feel like? I think. So it looks like one thing, but then how you represent it with yourself is going to come up as the next thing. So what does it feel like? It feels confusing. It may feel as hopeless or devastating in the case of more significant ones, or sometimes insignificant ones are that way. And it's how we represent it is oftentimes how we show up in life prior to, and the adversity that comes up often determines, it exposes maybe some unconscious patterns in ourselves. It may feel like discouraging. It may feel overwhelming. It may feel challenging. Sometimes people get excited by challenges. Some people come up against resistance and they get excited by it, or they get joy, or they get interested, or they get engaged. So generally that response is going to be if it's more in line with what you really want to do and you're excited about a topic, and also the level of confidence that you have in a topic. Because your confidence to achieve things or to overcome obstacles is related to a variety of factors. Number one, how did your family history and how did your personal history deal with challenges as a child, how they were represented, and what patterns did you get at it? What is your level of competence in an area? Generally, the more competent or more experience you have in the area, the more that you'll be okay with whatever challenge comes up. When you first start out in business, or sometimes in a relationship, or in maybe a new phase of life, you might not be confident of what you're going to do because you haven't been that before. Maybe you're having a new baby, maybe you got in a new relationship, maybe you started a new career or gotten a new business. So depending on the level of experience that you have, your self-representation, as well as the way you either get engaged or disengaged from your challenges, is going to determine how well you overcome that. But so those come up as both. Actually, I would categorize those into two different things that come up when you face adversity. One is how it looks. It generally is never as bad as how it initially looks. And then two, how do you respond, or how does it feel, is what is the emotionality that you've attached with that observational story. And that's probably the most difficult piece to overcome, because that is your inner dialogue that you've put together for a long period of time. And that is something that people, especially in today's world, I don't think really appreciate. I mean, our ancestors dealt with serious adversity. No hydro, no grocery stores, oftentimes no source of revenue or source of certainty, no way to store meat or vegetables or food, dubious levels of shelter, all sorts of threats from outside of it, a real lack of ignorance of the world. I mean, if you look at our ancestors, they dealt with uncertainty far more so than we do here. In fact, I think in today's world, we've got so much certainty built into the system that we've mistaken comfort for happiness. And I believe that happiness, confidence, and your ability to overcome adversity is largely in part about, do you want to be comfortable, or do you want to self-actualize? Do you want to be happy? And I think you find happiness not necessarily in doing easy things. I think you find happiness in doing challenging things and figuring out how to overcome it. That's the things that you get the satisfaction from. And generally, the longer or the harder that you have to work for something, generally, the more satisfaction you gain in its achievement. Now, the problem or the challenge is that in today's world of the internet, the instant gratification dopamine operating system, which is essentially digital drugs delivered to your brain nonstop to give you dopamine hits of I'm important, I'm good, I'm worthy, I'm getting acknowledgement, I've got likes, I've got hearts, I've got friends pumping my tires on social media. I think all of those things, although they're well and good and may serve a purpose, I think they can also be detrimental. I think the fact that we don't really have to put ourselves in challenging physical conditions today, that we don't need to have survival, quote unquote, skills in today's world, often leaves a lot of uncertainty, because I think subconsciously a lot of us recognize that, you know what, we're kind of soft, we're kind of weak, and we kind of don't know what to do. And I see how this epidemic comes out in the political world, which now everything is being politicized. You say anything on, like, if I say this, someone is going to try and politicize it and make a political statement about just the topic I want to chat about. It has nothing to do with the politics. But what's happening is we have a world of politicization which sets everybody up as a victim and a perpetrator. And that victim-perpetrator dialogue is in the news, it's in the media, it's in social media, it's on TV, it's in drama. And, you know, I think it was a mentor of mine that said, T. Harv Eker, that said, you know, when drama goes up, income goes down. And I think if you start, when it comes down to how do you respond to adversity, let's get into what is the right response. Number one, you can write this down, and hi to everybody that's jumped in on Facebook. I can't seem to respond to Facebook and do the Zoom call, so my apologies on that. Number one, what do you do when you're faced with it? I think number one is check your initial response. Are you in fear? Are you in anger? Are you in pride? Are you frozen? Are you frozen from? Try and gauge your emotional response right off the bat, and recognize that's not an accurate assessment. So when you're in any of the negative emotions, and that I would say that's pride, anger, desire, fear, grief, apathy, humiliation, shame, guilt, any of those, and if you have any of those feelings, I think it's important to recognize they're probably not an accurate assessment of the situation. It's just a conditioned emotional response. But knowing that, the way to put the antidote to those negative emotions is through information. Okay, acquiring more information, engaging as opposed to disengaging, taking action on it. So the first thing is accept your emotional thing. Now, the next thing is, I would write down, well, what is the potential outcomes of this? And write the worst possible outcome first. So this is section 2. Write down, well, this is going to ruin my life, ruin my finances, I'm going to lose my relationship, I might starve to death, and then I'll die. All right, let's say that's the worst case scenario. Put all that down. What's that look like? And then you put, well, what is the best case scenario? And then you think, well, it actually sets me up in an opportunity here. Lets me get more clarity about my career. I can engage in some more people and find out this area's been kind of bugging me for a while. You know, maybe I can go in there and get some help. I can figure this out and solve it and really get the result that I want. That's or you could say, even if you don't know that this would lead me to a course or a direction that I never would take before. The universe is supporting me, and I'm going in a direction that's going to lead me to ultimate success. That's the best case scenario. Now, the reality is you're going to be somewhere in between those two things. And what I would say is to get to acceptance of the worst case scenario first. And that will help you alleviate the negative emotions, right? Well, if it goes down and all that happens and I lose my relationship, I lose my life, I lose my career, and I die, well, maybe I don't really have any problems at that point. So are these problems really as big as I think they are? Because then I'll die is generally the bottom of all fears. It's kind of, you track it down. And you can do that by a process what's called, and then what? Well, if this outcome doesn't happen, and then what? And it says, well, then I will not make as much money as I have. And then what? Well, and then I might not be able to pay my bills. And then what? My partner will walk out the door because I'm not pulling what? And then what? Oh, then I'll be on the street and I'll be out of a relationship. And then what? I'll be begging for food. And then what? And no one will give me enough money for food. And then what? And then I'll just waste away and die. Okay. well, at the end, you can track these fears. You always get to the same one. So if you can actually deal with that big thing, the fear of death and the associations that are stacked upon that, well, then now you can come to grips with their own mortality. And I think that allows you to just actually start to address those fears from a logical aspect that will help you take them apart. Deal with the emotions. I think that's the first step to do. Next step, step number 2, is you got to, Tony Robbins says that you've got to pull all your resources to the table to solve it. So, okay, you look at, and I would say instead of what to do, I would ask who. Who knows how to solve this? Who can I reach out to? Who do I know that's been through this situation? Where can I find an expert in this particular issue? Where can I get, whether it's legal advice, financial advice, health advice, because those are generally or relationship advice. Those 4 areas I think are the big ones, and you could add a 5th one, spiritual counseling, and to that, your spiritual life or emotional well-being or psychological well-being, something might call that. So you can categorize most of the big adversity things in one of those 4 categories or 5 categories. So if you do that, then you go, okay, well, who's someone that solved this, or who's an expert in this area that's proven to get results? Well, you find Bob and Mary and Fred. Let's say it's a medical condition, or let's say it's a business condition. You know, it's about a distribution or a tax issue, or maybe it's an advertising issue. You got to get an advertising agency or compliance or a rep or whatever it happens to be. You go out, and what you want to do is you want to identify the people that you can contact that might know that. Now, that could be friends, or you do some due diligence and reach out to business acquaintances that are in that world, or you reach out to professionals, established professionals in that area. Okay, and what do? You take, so the next 3 is you identify who could potentially help you. Make your list. That's the second part. Make your list of people who could potentially help you. Bring your resources to the table. And then 3, what you do is you take all-out massive action, AOMA, all-out massive action. You call all those people. You contact their websites. You schedule some meetings. You get on the phone. Don't get 1 opinion, get 3. Get 3 different opinions about what you need to do on any. If it's a health condition, I don't care. Get 3 opinions. If it's a legal thing, get 3 opinions. If it's a business thing, get 3 opinions. If it's a spiritual thing, get 3 opinions. You want to gather some resources so that you get a better picture of the situation. And if 3 people all say the same thing, chances are that's the case. If the 3 people all say 3 different things, well, now you got to drill down a little deeper. This is the process of learning and leveraging, shall we say, adversity. How do you leverage adversity? So that is important, because here's a couple things. So those are the 3 steps. That's the quick things if you want to go right now, but I want to dive into this a little deeper. Because whatever challenge that you have in life, in order for you to solve it, you must understand it. And I believe Einstein said that you cannot solve a problem with the same level of awareness that created it. You have to access a higher state of awareness, a greater sense of awareness, a better mousetrap, so to speak. Okay? Number 2, in order to understand it, you need to get more info. Now, in the case of Einstein, a lot of his stuff, he was actually really grinding out and thinking up new creative ways to solve problems that haven't been solved before. Most business things, most relationship situations, and most financial situations, and most legal situations, and even most spiritual situations there are people who have gone through the exact same thing as you have and have overcome them. So what I would suggest is you want to go out and find people that have had relatively the same problem or challenge or adversity, and use them as, number 1, an inspiration point, number 2, as a reference point, and number 3, as a contact point if you can reach them and contact them to overcome it. And then finally, once you've gathered enough information, and the sooner that you gather that information, the more effective you're going to be in order to act, then you need to take what I call strategic action. You lay out a game plan with you, your advisors, and if there's team members involved in this, or friends or family or partners involved with it, you get everybody on board. You lay out the plan. You ask for any resistance to the plan. You get buy-in to the plan. If that's what you want to go, you reach out to all the people. You get to all the confirmations. You see what's going on. You get this thing rolling, and you decide on a course of action, and you decide on some form of accountability baked into that process. So how are you going to measure and track results? What are the timelines that you're setting? What are the action points? Who's going to do what in what order? And how are you going to measure all this stuff so that you get data and information that will allow you to come to a reasonable conclusion, or to take a course of action that you can find out if you're getting results or not. And here's the thing. The worst thing that you can do is to freeze and not do anything. I've done this on so many areas in life, and it just, when you freeze, what happens is the cost compounds, the emotions build up and get amplified, the uncertainty grows, and you start dealing with, as my mom would say, you start making mountains out of molehills. And I just see this happening all the time. I see this in the politicization of everything in social media and on the news. They are taking things out of context. They are leveraging things. So we're in an age where people are looking to be the biggest victim. And instead of taking action and taking responsibility, they're shouting at other people, and they're demanding responses, or demanding they're demanding rights. But there's no, in order to get rights, you have to have responsibility. So in order to solve challenges, you got to take responsibility. In order to have a better life, you're responsible for that, nobody else. The conditions that you find yourself in are the conditions that you find yourself in. The chances that someone is going to be able to lift you out of that are very low. And I don't know if you really want someone to lift you out of it. I think you want to be able to lift yourself out of it. And you lift yourself out of it by engaging with people who have done the same thing, getting inspired by those people, getting information from those people that can assist you in a professional manner. But at the end of the day, your adversity, your challenge, that's up to you. You got to solve it. In order to solve it, you got to understand it. And to overcome it, you're going to have to take strategic and all-out strategic massive action. So that's really the nutshell of how to overcome adversity. Now, we're going to take one last step. One of the best ways to do that is through mentorships. I believe in mentorships. I believe in coaching relationships. I've been a coach now for 20 years. It's a great career. Excuse me. Don't know why I'm on that. But coaching is great. Mentorship is where a little different than coaching. Coaching, they're actively involved. Mentorship kind of is not as engaged or invested in the outcome. They're just providing you, here's the steps, go out and do them. So I always have a mentor that's 10 to 20 years older than me, that's gone through the things that I have in that particular area, whether it's relationships, whether it's business, whether it's health, whether it's legal, whether it's financial. And then you can kind of get some insights because they probably had that problem. So you do that, you get mentorship or you get coaching or both. I think you need to get legal advice. You need to get financial and business advice. Generally, you want professionals. If it's in a financial area, you probably want some accounting, or you should have someone that's providing you insight to run your finances. If it's business, depending on what type of business you're doing and where that is, you need to get insight from that. If it's legal, you need to get a hold of an attorney in order to address the legal issues. And sometimes some challenges are so big that you may need to get all of the above. And the bigger that your business goes, the bigger that your life goes, the more likely that you are going to have to seek out right legal, right financial, and right business opinions on a variety of factors in your life. And I think the same thing happens if you're on your spiritual path. You're going down that road. You're going to need some guidance. You're going to need some insight. You're going to need good company. The key to that is you're going to need perseverance to overcome it. Oftentimes when you hit real adversity, you recognize that the challenge is far more significant. And at that point, you've got to weigh out, I think, a cost-reward ratio. So is the outcome worth putting sustained effort for an extended period of time? And that sustained effort is going to have a time component and a financial component, and I would say a lifestyle component. Maybe you want to become a doctor or an engineer, or maybe you want to build a 7 or 8 figure business. What's the cost of that going to be to you, to the people that's counting on you, your lifestyle commitment, your relationships? What's it going to cost you financially? You're going to have to get student loans. Are you going to have to borrow for the business? Are you going to put yourself in debt? What can you do? How's that going to influence your relationships? Am I going to be working all the time, studying all the time? Who am I connecting with? And all that sort of stuff. And I think once the more data and more research that you get, and you want to do that in a compressed time, the more calm that you become. I have also found that when you engaged with professionals, whether it's doctors, lawyers, investment people, marketing people, like, I think it's good to be open. I think it's be open to share what your challenges really are. Don't mask them. Don't hold back. Reveal what's going on so they can give best advice. Because some people don't want to actually reveal some of the deeper stuff. Maybe they're concerned about the finances involved in overcoming that challenge, or the time or the effort or whatever. And some of those are warranted and some of those not. So you come out with that. The more humble that you have about your challenges, I think the better that you have a result, the more that people will empathize with you in your case. Number one, you'll probably get better deals. You'll probably get more info than if you didn't. You'll probably get some really great guidance, even if you can't maybe afford at that particular time the help that you want. That's a big issue for people lots of times. So I think that's all really relative in how you overcome adversity. And then the final piece is you got to take the action. The faster that you work through the observational component of what does this look like, what does it feel like, and how do I respond, the quicker that you do that, and the quicker that you take action. What I find is fear is often alleviated by taking action. Fear, when you get that fear and it comes up for you, false evidence appearing real, you have to realize that you have kind of a conditioned emotional biochemical response to adversity that's taking you out. And the way to go overcome that is just to walk through it, to go push through it, to just blow through that door. And sometimes this is where you're going to have to take a course like warrior training or some kind of physicality. You need to get yourself in a resourceful state. So get into a resourceful state, positive state, listen to some positive tapes on adversity, overcoming challenges, read biographies, read inspiring things, listen to inspiring people, inspiring music, and all that sort of stuff about people that had to grind it out, fight it out, overcome challenges, and realize, well, you know what, my challenge might be not as bad or as difficult, or if they can do it, I can do it. You've got to get yourself into a state that I can as opposed to I can't. That's critical, because you can't solve problems from an I can't attitude. So I was chatting with a young lady today who's in my business, which is related. And, you know, she was kind of dealing with an issue about something. And she said she didn't have the money or the resources. I said, it's not the resources that you lack resourcefulness. And the reality is, if you don't, and I identified that her challenge was actually sales training. If you don't have enough sales training, you don't have the ability to sell, it's really difficult to overcome challenges. I think everybody should work a little bit of time in public service, whether that's a restaurant or something where you're serving the public. I think everybody should take sales training as a communication device, because we're always trying to communicate our ideas to other people, our thoughts, our dreams, our goals. And our ability to do that is really the art of persuasion, or the art of sales, or the art of presenting a case that hopefully will inspire other people to work with you and for you, and you for others as well. That's the real salesmanship. A lot of people have a negative idea about sales, but I think it's something really, really important that a lot of people oversight, and it's a skill like anything else. There's a strategy to it, there's an art to it, and a science to it, and you can, with a little bit of sales training, I mean, that's going to be the big difference maker in your life and business, because sales training teaches you to anticipate objections and to overcome objections. And when you do that on a regular basis in a sales side, then you can have success. And it's like I told this person today who had all these challenges with their business and other people are not getting the help. I said, you know what? You gotta rewrite that tape. You got to rewrite that tape into the fact that you need sales training, you need sales ability, you need to communicate your ideas, goals, and dreams, and you need to find a way to get that. And by doing that, you're going to overcome your challenges. If you don't do that, you'll never overcome your challenges. So you need to accept that. Now, that sounds hard, but that's true. When it comes to adversity, you got to sell yourself on your ability to overcome the challenge. And to do that, you need to draw reference from what I would call the possibility matrix. And that, well, if that person can do it, so can I. If this person figured it out, I can too. And so that's a positive mindset that I think needs to happen. So again, you want to look at, just to review, how to overcome adversity. What's it look like? Identify what's it feel like? How do I respond? Then you go out. You got to understand, you got to solve it. You got to understand the problem to understand it. You got to study it, and you got to get more information. To overcome it, you got to take strategic and massive action with a variety of things. You want to leverage mentorship, coaches, whether it's legal, financial, business advice, whether it's all of them. You want to come to them with openness, with honest communication, to assess where you're at, get that feedback, and then write out a plan and get everybody that's involved with this to lay it out, get their feedback, get their reservations, get their insights, and then go at it and build an accountability program around that. And you're going to now have a framework for solving and dealing with adversity. The one piece I forgot to mention in there is, remember, sure, you want to do the worst case and best case scenario, recognize you're going to be somewhere in between likely, and look at those scenarios, get comfortable with those scenarios, and leverage those scenarios to kind of go out and overcome the adversities in your life. And I think if you do that, you're going to have a framework, and start with small things and then move on to big things. But you definitely need to get engaged, avoid the freeze trap, avoid the fear trap, and leverage that situation. Because, you know, I'll share something with you. I believe that adversity is an invitation from God, from the universe, to invite you to find a greater sense of potential. I mean, isn't it true that all the adversity that humans have faced has led to some sort of innovation that's made our life easier or better? Pretty much. I mean, pretty much everything that we have in today's modern world is a result of overcoming an adversity. So I would say that adversity is actually a necessity for growth. It's a necessity for you to overcome whatever challenges that you have in your life. And I think that's one of the big things that happens when people retire. I think they got this idea that they're going to live comfortably and just kind of go numb. And then they get sick, and then they get challenged. And I think that illness oftentimes comes from unconscious guilt on some level, and also the lack of adversity in life. Your body will, if you're someone that's overcome a lot of things and you retire, all of a sudden you get adversity for the illness or whatever. I think it's the universe saying, hey, you need a cause, you need a purpose, you need something that's going to kind of kick you into gear, to get you motivated, to get you engaged in this thing called life. Life's a short ride. It goes by fast. And thinking you're just going to sit on the couch of life and watch it like a movie or a Netflix special, I don't know if that's the way to engage in life. I think that we need adversity. I think it inspires all of humanity into greater development, greater possibilities, and greater self-realization. And ultimately, that leads to happiness. Now, the level of adversity that's comfortable for you may vary, but generally, as adversity oftentimes can be couched in uncertainty. And I think Tony Robbins said one time that your quality of life is directly correlated to your ability to handle uncertainty. And I would say that much of uncertainty is couched in adversity. If people have that, they don't know if they're going to make it. They don't know if they're going to. And guess what? All the great movies that we watch, all the heroes' journeys, all the great stories in life that we love and we tell each other and we have for tens of thousands of generations, all are around how someone who are under severe conditions overcame them and what that took. And usually it was difficult, it was challenging, it was hard, but it's invariably worth it. So that's my talk today on adversity. I hope you enjoyed it. We do this each and every month, Prosperity and Health Alliance Digital Republic. You know where it is. You can go and go to our website, get the information. It's just a service that we do out there where I get to share my thoughts, feelings. I get to rant about a particular topic that comes up. I'm dealing with adversity in my life. I'm sure you're dealing with adversity in yours. Go out there, find the solutions, find the right people, gather your resources, overcome the challenge, go out and smash that out of the park. Because I think if you do that, I think you're going to see that you become an unstoppable force and that you'll actually get excited with adversity, that you'll find ways to overcome it because it won't shatter you like it does so many people. So just a thought to think about. Love you lots. If you like this, make a comment. We'll be posting this up on YouTube as well on my channel. You can grab that, make your comments and posts. They're always appreciated. That helps us get the message out. I'm yours, Wade T. Lightheart. Thanks so much. God bless and good day.